An impeachment, and we've made it a social media issue as opposed to a constitutional concept. This place just keeps going downhill, and I don't need to spend my time here. I have made it plain and simple that I don't think that the impeachment of Biden is appropriate, and so Mike Johnson's ability to talk me into staying here is going to be about as successful as his ability into talking me into unconstitutional impeachments.
Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in New York. How about them apples? That was a lifelong Republican, a really, really conservative one. And if you have to answer this question, how bad is the Republicans' attempt to impeach President Joe Biden? It is so bad that that guy, a really, really, really conservative Republican, is leaving Congress over it. That was Congressman Ken Buck from Colorado. You may have heard the news this week that he announced he will cut his final term in Congress short abruptly, crediting his party's unfounded debacle of an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden that has turned up no evidence of wrongdoing on the part of the president. Today, in a strongly worded letter to the House Speaker, the White House says they, too, have had enough. White House counsel Ed Siskel's letter to Speaker Mike Johnson reads, quote, "I write to you today because it is clear the House Republican impeachment is over. The House majority ought to work with the president on our economy, our national security, and other important priorities on behalf of the American people, not continue to waste time on political stunts like this." He continues, quote, "The House majority has reportedly collected more than 100,000 pages of records, interviewed dozens of witnesses, and held multiple public hearings, but none of the evidence has demonstrated that the president did anything wrong. In fact, it has shown the opposite of what House Republicans have claimed." In response, Speaker Johnson said, quote, "The White House doesn't get to decide how impeachment gets resolved. That's for Congress to decide." But what Congress has done with their inquiry so far, other than repel Ken Buck, is to find zero proof to back any of their claims. And in a devastating blow to their efforts, just last month, their star witness, former FBI informant Alexander Smirnov, was indicted for lying about the Bidens. Can't make this up. Now new reporting reveals even more about how untrustworthy he is. CBS News is reporting that serious doubts about Smirnov's credibility were raised almost a decade ago and are now prompting questions about why he remained on the FBI payroll for as long as he did. Smirnov's attorneys said their client, quote, "stands behind his years of service to the Department of Justice and the U.S." And the FBI has not responded to NBC's request for comment, but it does underscore the very weak foundation all along upon which Republicans base their inquiry. They can't even point to any clear evidence when asked.
Have you seen direct evidence related to President Biden? Because that's what we have not heard.
Well, we have to connect the dots.
There has not been produced a smoking gun. Clear-cut, undeniable proof of the president's involvement with his son's foreign business deals. What do you say to that?
Well, we've never claimed that we have direct money going to the president.
We find more potential evidence that needs to be obtained, more hints, more accusations that need to be investigated.
In an interview with Punchbowl News this week, a House Republican leadership aide called out the two Republicans running the inquiry, saying this, quote, "Jim Jordan and James Comer are becoming the chairman who cried wolf, promising a there over and over and over again and producing nothing anywhere close to an impeachable offense," end quote. The White House saying enough is enough to House Republicans. Rolling debacle is where we begin the hour with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. New York Times congressional reporter Luke Broadwater is here, plus former Republican Congressman, MSNBC political analyst David Jolly is back, and MSNBC legal analyst Barbara McQuaid is with us. She is a former U.S. attorney and the author of the book Attack from Within, How Disinformation is Sabotaging America, which we will get to later in the hour because when it was first out, we missed our shot with some breaking news. Luke, I remember when you were in New York because I think it was Jordan and Comer took their traveling debacle on the road. It was going to be such a boon. They hit the road with it like a tour. It is so bad. The conservative Ken Buck is leaving the party early. Explain.
Yeah, it was interesting you played that clip of Ken Buck. Ken Buck is so conservative that he has an AR-15 in his office. He is one of the founders of the House Freedom Caucus. So, but he's also a federal prosecutor or a former federal prosecutor. And so he's somebody who actually does care about the law and about process and about the facts. And so you hear him lamenting there what a circus Congress has become, the House-run Congress, the Republican-run House in particular, going after impeachments just for social media likes and clicks and hits, and not for the seriousness of what he says should be a constitutional offense. Remember, the Constitution defines impeachment as a high crime or misdemeanor, and specifically mentions bribery. It's not just because we don't like this guy or we want to get him back because the Democrats impeached Trump, which is what Ken Buck is saying that the House has become.
I mean, explain, you know, it's complicated to always unpack where they went wrong because it's never really based on anything that went right. But Luke, just explain how reliant they were on Smirnov, who's now been indicted, as their source for alleged corruption.
Well, remember, Republicans always wanted to try to impeach Biden as soon as they took over the House. Donald Trump had told them to impeach the bum. They had wanted to get revenge for the impeachments of Trump. So they were looking for anything they could get. And they started going back through the files and asking for bank records and asking for all these documents. And finally, something that seemed too good to be true came along. And it was this 1023 form from an informant who claimed that not only that Joe Biden took $5 million in cash bribes, but that he was on audio talking about it. And there were 2 tapes where Joe Biden was admitting he took $5 million in cash bribes. It sounded too good to be true at the time. Nevertheless, they all ran with it. Many of them went on TV, did numerous media hits about it. They held press conferences about it. They mentioned it as one of the foundations for when they had the vote to launch the impeachment investigation. And then, of course, the FBI and the Justice Department come back later and say the guy made it all up. And, you know, and then Democrats called on them to close up shop over it, but they are continuing to go on with the investigation and saying, never mind, that discredited evidence, will have to find something new.
Which they haven't found yet. So the thing, Barbara, about them going on TV is we've got it. Let me show you some of that.
You have the confidential FBI informant who's basically saying that Joe Biden took $5 million from Burisma.
The informant was a highly valued human source for the FBI.
A trusted, confidential informant.
They had a credible source, one of their good sources.
Their most credible paid FBI informant.
So the idea, Barb, that that anyone said to Marjorie Taylor Greene that this was, quote, their most credible paid FBI informant is laughable on its face. But here's what the government says in a memo in support of detaining Smirnov, this informant they were all talking about. Quote, the circumstances of the offenses charged that Smirnov lied to his FBI handler after a 10-year relationship where the two spoke nearly every day means that Smirnov cannot be trusted to provide truthful information to pretrial services, and the false information he provided was not trivial. It targeted the presumptive nominee of one of the 2 major political parties in the United States. The effects of Smirnov's false statements and fabricated information continue to be felt to this day. And it's a government memo, so we'll excuse them the understatement, but it continues to poison the body politic to this day.
Yeah, so, you know, even casting us in the light most favorable to these congressional Republicans who wanted to begin an impeachment proceeding against Joe Biden on the basis of this information, they genuinely believe that there was an FBI informant who said these things and that they even had a recording. That they didn't listen to the recording before they went out and talked about it is shame on them to begin with. But when they learn that this informant is not only discredited, but charged with a crime for lying about these very things, that they aren't pulling the plug and apologizing is really baffling. Instead, they're now saying, well, we don't have that anymore, but we'll find something. It really just shows that this is, a conspiracy looking for some evidence to support it, as opposed to following the evidence where it leads. And I think one of the things that we see going on here is this idea of portraying every government official as corrupt. Because if everyone's corrupt and everyone gets impeached, it really takes the teeth out of what it means to be impeached. And so I think this effort to impeach Joe Biden is an effort to rehabilitate Donald Trump and to be able to just say, look, everybody gets impeached. It's just a political act.
Yeah, I mean, David Jolly, I think Barb's exactly right. That's exactly what it is. And I think they maybe didn't plan on Ken Buck to be the press's eyes and ears on what a scam it all is.
Yeah, Nicole, if this was a serious Congress, I'll tell you who they'd be investigating today. It's Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. And for this reason, this opens up, the Smirnoff story opens up a ton of questions because of this. Go back to impeachment 1. It was impeachment 1 where Donald Trump was impeached for his involvement in pressuring Ukraine to confirm an investigation into Joe Biden and essentially Hunter Biden as well. Bill Barr comes on the scene 2 weeks after the former president was impeached for the first time and says, hey, we should look at this information from someone like Smirnoff who suggests they have evidence of this. So you're telling me that at the same time Donald Trump was involved in pressuring the Ukrainian government, later impeached by Congress for it, there's this asset that the U.S. thinks they have, who, oh, by the way, it's also been confirmed, had ties to Russian intelligence assets as well, and was not found later to be credible, that somehow this actor is on the world stage providing information to federal prosecutors at the time when Donald Trump is president, Bill Barr is the AG. Somehow those two things are totally unrelated. Maybe, but you'd have to be crazy to just assume that. If Congress wants to investigate somebody, they should investigate Donald Trump right now and whether or not the Smirnoff piece had anything to do with impeachment 1. Congress is not serious, though, and so you see them chasing Hunter Biden and his tapes.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Wheelie.
Sir, come on, when is it not, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn good on me. Let us know.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion. Security, please bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We're facing a heavy, sustained attack. They appear to be after the Allspark aircraft. General, General! Need to immediately evacuate everything. Hold on. National security advisory. Stay down. Check it out. There is a celebration. The amateurs for a suicide mission.